So what is the hi-fi market? It's a kind of slightly obscure market that comprises a lot of hobbyists, a lot of people who are very passionate about audio. But the industry itself seems to be quite bizarre in many ways. Manufacturers in the hi-fi industry tend to optimize seemingly arbitrary design criteria. And by that, I could give examples of, for instance, a loudspeaker designer might want to create a loudspeaker stand that's full of volcanic ash on the supposition that the ash has superior acoustic qualities. Or it may be an example of a loudspeaker company designing a driver with very exotic, very expensive materials, whether or not it's gold or platinum or diamond or any material that you care to mention. There could be some reason why they want to use that can achieve some level of objective improvement in sound quality. But the trouble is that a lot of these design goals are quite arbitrary in the sense that they don't necessarily improve the perceptual quality of the loudspeaker. So in other words, a listener may be listening to it but be unable to appreciate some of the achievements that they can measure objectively, but that simply aren't relevant to the perceptual experiences. Manufacturers also, in following these kind of slightly blind alleys, fail to account for more serious and more considerable sources of actual real perceptual distortion. So distortions that a listener will actually still hear, they've kind of forgotten about or ignored in preference for chasing some of these strange kind of design goals. Example of that is that many loudspeakers in the hi-fi market and the hi-fi industry still have a port or still use a transmission line, neither of which are good for fidelity. In fact, they contribute quite large amounts of distortion. Some of the some unsubstantiated claims within the hi-fi industry do include things like £5,000 cables. I've spoken to people who have spent £5,000 on cables, £10,000 on cables. And in fact, they've asked me which one they should use. They've just bought two. They've spent £10,000 on these two different types of cable. Which one should they use? And of course, I'm kind of at a loss for words because neither of them is going to be perceptually distinguishable unless one of them is doing a bad job. In which case that's a really bad case if you've just spent £5,000 on them. Supersonic hearing is another claim. So people argue that you need to buy their loudspeaker because it can reproduce up to 40K in terms of 40,000 hertz. And obviously that's twice as high as the highest frequency that humans can hear. Your dog or some bats might be able to appreciate it, but humans probably can't. And as I've mentioned, there's examples of volcanic ash in loudspeaker stands because of some acoustic damping properties. So the hi-fi market is a bit of a strange beast. And what we wanted to do with the D1 is really not play along with this game and really focus on design criteria that people could appreciate and tangibly experience. So the next slide, I've got a graph. It's just a conceptualization that I've made of how I kind of see things working in the industry. Along the x-axis, we've got cost, and this could be any cost. It could be cost associated with the materials used in a loudspeaker. It could be associated with the total product cost, or it could be the research and development costs associated with designing and developing a certain loudspeaker. And on the y-axis, we've got actual performance. So some measure of performance. It could be objective performance. Could be subjective performance. And then I've got this difference between the objective performance and the subjective performance, which I've called dishonesty criterion. So this is where I feel like a lot of loudspeaker manufacturers tap into. As the cost of their product increases, so does the dishonesty criterion. In other words, they may achieve some level of objective performance benefits, but actually people are unable to appreciate these because they're too obscure or they're beyond the limits of human hearing. And again, with the D1, we really didn't want to play this game. If our objective performance is going up, we want to make sure that our subjective performance is going up with it.